Ow! It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all.
What do I say to that? What do I say?
Crush your enemies. See them driven before your little lamentation.
Oh, so, a little bit of housekeeping, what do I call you? You have so many names. What would you like to be called? The governor? What would you like?
Well, you can call me Dutch. You can call me Ben Richards. You can call me Schnitzel. You can call me the Governor Arnold. But don't call me the Butcher of Bakersfield. Okay? But anyway, you know, the thing that I always say when people ask me the question is you can call me anything, but don't call me a self-made man. Because there is no such a thing, you know, because I'm here today because I got help from a lot of people. And remember, you can never become a star without you. You are the guys, the audience, the fans are the ones that make one a star. When you go to see the movies, that's when you become a star. So that's the bottom line. So we can never do anything by ourselves. So it was great to have all of you here. You're so enthusiastic. I was asked, I think it was like a month ago, by a friend of mine who is somehow connected with this. And he said to me, he says, you know, it's just an idea. They're gonna have a screening of Running Man and Predator, and would you be interested in going there and to do a little Q&A? And I didn't even think about it more than a second. I said, of course. Because if you guys can sit through 2 of my movies, then I can at least come from Santa Monica over here. I just came from USC. We just had a conference, an environmental conference at USC, and we had the Chinese there and everybody, and it was a very successful conference. And then I just drove over here and to join you. So to me, it is a great, great pleasure to tell you, a great pleasure to be here today with all of you watching both of those movies. And let me just say, I don't know, is Bill Duke in the audience somewhere? Yeah. Where is Bill Duke? Stand up, Bill Duke. Where's Bill Duke? Bill. Bill, come on out here because we got to do a shot together. Come on out here, Bill. Look at this guy here, still in top shape. It's unbelievable. Look at this. Bill Duke. Look at those lats. Look at those deltoids. Look at those pectoral muscles. Look at the abs. I mean, things are happening here. I can't even believe it. And you're in your 80s. How do you do that?
Thank you.
Sit down, Bill Duke. Do it now. I cannot do this Q&A here and have Bill Duke sitting out there. I mean, this guy, I tell you, he blew me away in Predator. I mean, this is really the top of the line of actors. And they always talk about method acting and all this stuff. I have no idea what method you used, but I totally bought in. It was so real. I always felt when you were around that we really are in major danger in that jungle. And it was like unbelievable because your face said it all the time. It was like kind of, we're a dipshit, right? This is what we felt like all the time. So it's great to see you. I haven't seen you for a while, but it's great to see you, and you look terrific.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, absolutely. So let's give him a big hand again.
So this will be a little bit different from most Q&As that we do here, in as much as the governor requested, rather than listen to me asking questions, he would rather hear your questions instead. So we're just going to jump right in and take questions from the audience. Is that okay?
I mean, what kind of an accent is that?
Coming from you, that's a compliment, my friend. England, but it got a little bit lost along the way. So
no, it's a great accent. That was just sometimes you don't know. It could be Australian, it could be South African, it could be British, it could be anything. You know?
You're hurting my feelings now.
Oh my God! Don't get bitchy.
Gentleman right there in the glasses. Just you. And I'll repeat the question for the audience so that everyone can get it.
What was the favorite practical joke you played during the filming?
Favorite practical joke during the filming of Predator?
Well, I think that you had kind of a huge amount of testosterone on that set. So you can imagine the amount of jokes and tricks were pulled on each other the entire time. I mean, it was like unbelievable. But one time I remember specifically, I did so many tricks on those guys that when I happened to get married during the filming of Predator, it was like I was 3 weeks in and I went to Johannesburg and they got married to Maria, and we had the production gave us a few days honeymoon, and then we flew back and continued on with Predator. So the first night I was there, I remember that Maria got up in the middle of the night. She had to go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I heard a loud scream. I mean, just like really loud, like there was something terribly wrong. And so I ran into the bathroom, and she just had this curtain open, and there was snakes in the bathtub and frogs in the bathtub and everything like this. So the stunt guys and those guys pulled a trick on me, and they know that I'm gonna have it's still part of my honeymoon, and they wanted to just totally screw up my honeymoon once and for all. And sure enough, my wife left the next day. She was out of there. She says, "I'm not gonna stay in this jungle within this misery. I'm out of here." And she went back to Hollywood, and that was the end of that. So those are the kind of things that went on all the time, but it was because I pulled tricks on them also. So this is just the way it goes, you know. On those sets with that much testosterone, with that many guys around.
And Bill, how about you? Did you have any tricks played on you, or did you play any tricks on anyone?
No tricks, but it was amazing because Arnold had a gymnasium shipped in from LA and put into the ballroom. And every morning, he and the cast would run how many miles? I forgot.
We would run around 5 miles every morning.
Around 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they come back and work out for another hour.
That's right.
Eat breakfast, right, and then go to the set. I did it twice.
But I mean, it's funny, but it reminds me, because when you say we ran every day 5 miles, there was one day where I have to admit I only ran 1 mile. Because what happened was I got really sick, I got dehydrated, and then I got some flu or something like that. And then, when you're in Mexico, you eat the wrong thing, it's inevitable. The shit hits the fan, so to speak. So I went in the morning on an early morning run, and then all of a sudden, I started throwing up. And then I just try to be ballsy, wipe my mouth and continue on running. But then all of a sudden they came the other side. So I had to quickly run to the side of the road, pull my pants down, and then so I was like, I tell you, I was in big trouble that day. So it was not 5 miles that day. It was much less than that. I was in trouble, and then later on I had the doctor come in and they give me an IV, and I was dehydrated. I needed like a lot of fluid, and so for 4 days I was in bed after that. Lost around 7 pounds, 8 pounds or so of body weight during the time, and then later on, a week later, I was able to go back to work again.
Did they stop the whole production because of that? Or?
No, they continued on shooting because there were a lot of scenes that didn't have me in there, so there was a lot of work that they continued doing. So there was not one single minute that stopped because of that. Luckily, because it was such an ensemble piece, and there were so many guys there and so many great action scenes and different scenes where they continued on working, and then I came back in again. Yes.
Great game.
Can you tell us a story about working with the great Dino De Laurentiis?
Can you tell us a story about working with the great Dino De Laurentiis?
Well, Dino De Laurentiis and I, it's kind of like the Sylvester Stallone relationship, where you started with despise and hatred, and then somehow, for some miracle reason, something happens and becomes a good relationship. And so with Dino De Laurentiis, it was exactly the same thing. It was I went in there for to be cast for a film as a villain. It was like the late 70s, was around 77 or so, and I went in there, and when I walked into the office, the first thing I saw was this huge desk, ornate, long, massive, with lion legs and everything, and then there was this short little guy behind it. So the first thing that comes to my mind was to say, wow, why does a little guy like you need such a big desk? Big mistake. Big mistake. He immediately fired back and says, you have an accent. I cannot use you. You have an accent. That was the end. And they escorted me out. There was this guy, Dino Conti, that was his friend, and there was a producer. He escorted us out, my agent and me. And we closed the door, and my agent screamed at me. And he says, why the fuck did you have to open your mouth? How many times should I tell you shouldn't open your mouth? Let me do the talking. So the bottom line was, he looked at the watch and says, this was the shortest meeting I've ever had with anybody. It was 1 minute and 14 seconds. Thanks a lot, Arnold. Really helpful when you open your mouth. And so that was it. So that's how the relationship started. Then I was cast to do Conan the Barbarian. Dino De Laurentiis bought the project to produce it for Universal Studio. He tried to get me off the project, and he says, Schwarzenegger, I don't like the Schwarzenegger. He's a Nazi. So he was trying to tell, the studio and John Milius, the director, anything and everything negative about me. And then John Milius basically just said, look, there's no one else that can play Conan. I'm going to cast Schwarzenegger, and that's it. And so that's how I got in there. And the bottom line is that 3 days after filming began, Dino De Laurentiis came up the steps there where we had this temple and where we had the big fight scene and everything. And he came up to me and says, hey, Arnold, are you Conan? And that was the biggest compliment anyone can ever give me, said to call me, you are Conan. And that means he bought in, and the director came over. That was the greatest compliment, that was fantastic. So from then on, the relationship improved, and then, as it improved, he started treating me like his son, and he was a sweetheart of a guy. I learned a lot from him. He was very helpful in my career, and just, as a matter of fact, I did the eulogy at his funeral when he passed away a few years ago. And so we became great friends, and I became a big admirer, and he became a big admirer of me and all that stuff. So it ended up all perfect and fine. Yeah, absolutely.
Is a young kid right there in an Equinox shirt? Yeah. Hi. He just asked if you would be willing to arm wrestle him.
Coming out here.
We have 600 grown adults in this room. He stepped up. Shame on all of you. What's your name, brother? Bailey. And where are you from, Bailey? California. Great answer. You know that this is the governor of California, correct? We love this.
High low. Too slow. All right, let's do the arm wrestling. How old are you? You're 9 years old. What do you use when you shave? Let me see. What do you use, electric or a razor? Nothing yet? No? What's your girlfriend's name? What do you do? Your parents are here? Okay, then we don't talk about it. No. Okay, you say 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
Very nice. You see, guys, you can't always win. He can always win. I can't. That was fantastic.
I just want to put some bucks on this stage. Right there in the back. Yeah.
Arnold, I've heard kind of rumors about it, but I haven't heard it from you. Can you please share the story that you shared at Stan Winston's memorial about your live cast with him for The Terminator?
Question was, can you share the story that you shared at Stan Winston's memorial about the live cast that you did with Stan?
Well, I think that I cannot even remember it anymore that well. But I mean, I just remember that it was a cluster kind of a situation, you know, when they do a live cast. They do your body, they do your arms, they do your legs, and each body part, you know, that goes through the waistline, the shoulders, and all that stuff. But then eventually it gets to your head. And then they put now this plaster all over your face and all over your head. And so eventually you can't see anything, you cannot hear anything. And the only thing you can really do is they put some straw in your nose. Have you ever had that done, Bill? Yeah, so they put the straw in your nose, and that's the way you can breathe. But now the mouth is totally closed, and all you do is you're just trying to kind of like hope that the straws don't close, because this is all you're thinking about always is, what if this closes? They cannot get that cast off fast enough for you to get air. And so all you're doing is just worry about that you're gonna wipe out with this thing on it. And Stan was talking to me throughout this entire time, and you know, all of a sudden I couldn't hear his voice because they closed the ears, and then they closed it. So it was really the most frightening feeling that you can think of, and you're sitting now with that thing for an hour until they finally start, and then they start cutting it off with a saw. And it's kind of the saws they use in the operating room, you know, and you say, all of a sudden you hear it, and you feel the vibration, and you say, oh my God, and I couldn't talk. I couldn't say, be careful, this is my ear. Or anything like that. It was like, you know, it's supposed to be, again, acting ballsy in those situations, but I mean, I did exactly the opposite. I mean, and St. Winston knew, and he really played it up, and they, you know, started pulling tricks on me, and prolonged the whole process, because he knew that I was worried about it and all that stuff. So it's not a fun experience. I've done it 2 or 3 times after that, but by that time I got used to it, because you know what's coming. And you can prepare yourself. But that first time when you did it, I was not ready for it at all.
It's amazing. I think we should give a round of applause for Stan Winston. We lost him weight between the highest credit. Okay.
Well, I just want to add, because Bill knows that we started Predator, and Predator, the original Predator, was built by another special effects makeup department. And we did all of our scenes, all of our scenes without the Predator. And then we started using the Predator. And it went south very quickly, because it didn't look good on screen. It had nothing to do with Van Damme being inside the rubber suit, like some people have written about it. There's nothing with him, because he was just built too small. It's supposed to be much taller than us. And so when they finally got rid of that Predator, and then Bill went finally to Stan Winston's shop, and because he was more expensive, because he was the best, Academy Award-winning guy, right? So when they went to his shop, he finally then, we had to stop shooting for 6 months. He finally built then a great Predator. And then he found a great guy to play the Predator and to do all those athletic jumps and athletic stuff. It was amazing what an athlete he was. And then it was really fantastic. So Stan Winston is responsible for the Predator to have become that successful. Stan Winston is really the best of the best. And he was the best of the best in this business. And as you say, we miss him dearly. To just ask Bill a question here for a second, because we were tortured in this movie. Every day was torture. I mean, you have to understand, just getting into the jungle. I mean, in the movie it looked scary just being in the jungle. That's why it was a really scary movie, not just because of the Predator. Just to be there was scary. And for us, it was exactly in reality the same thing. It was every day you were told in the morning when you go there, it's 6 in the morning in the jungle, be careful of the deadly spiders, be careful of the deadly bugs, be careful of those ants, be careful of this poisonous snake, be careful of this, be careful. And we had to crawl around on the ground. No one was checking anything, right? There was no checking, let's check the ground if there's anything there. And so I just want to find out from you, how did you feel every day when we went into that jungle? And then we had to do those things, because you try to act always really bossy, with the razor blade and all that kind of stuff, and with your gun and all. But I know that in reality, something must have also happened to you.
Well, there are two things I would say that Arnold's totally right. We had to crawl in the jungle, and I don't know what a coral snake is, but if it bites you, you die right away. We're crawling one day, and a coral snake goes like this, right across in front of us. And it was heat, it was humidity, driving up every morning. We had to drive like 20 or 30 minutes. There's no railing up into the mountains. But one of the funniest things that happened to me and to a lot of the cast was the craft service guy put netting around the craft service because, we're in the middle of the jungle. But every single day there were bugs in the food in the first week. And the first week we said, we're not eating this crap, take it back. By week 2, it's called protein. Am I right?
Hallelujah, you're right.
Kevin Peter Hall, who played the Predator, he actually said, the quote was, this wasn't about making a film, it was about survival. So it sounds like he had a particularly hellish experience out there as well. So I'm glad you guys made it out alive.
Well, let me just tell you, because the guy that played the Predator, we went to a different area to shoot the end of the movie. Palenque, exactly. So this was way south, and now it was fall, going winter. So not anymore the heat that we experienced in the jungle, but now it was at night. It was all night shooting. It was freezing cold. And just to tell you that was the scene where I was running around now for 1 week with the mud on my body at night. I was totally, the upper body was exposed, and Jeff Dawn, who was the makeup artist, started slapping this mud on my body, ice cold mud. And it was freezing cold. And now the whole night I had to run around and crawl around in the mud like that. So, I mean, it was absolutely, he's right, it was torturous. Because I was shaking like this, it was this cold. The only thing that saved me, I remember, was when I was as a kid ice curling in Austria. My dad always drank hot tea with rum. It was called Jägertee in German. And so I said to the guy that took care of me, I said, make some hot tea and get some rum and put it in there. He said, this is what I did all night long to kind of stop the shaking. I drank tea with rum. Not that I could remember my lines after that, but I mean, that was really the thing that saved me from not shaking all the time and just freaking out. And then, it was also, the most unhealthy kind of environment in that mud and in that dirt all the time.
It's amazing. Okay, gentlemen, actually, that's the lady right there, yeah.
You mentioned your relationship with Stallone, and when I was little, I remember that the fans could either be Stallone fans or Schwarzenegger fans. So it's like if you were a Schwarzenegger fan and you went to see a Stallone movie, you were disloyal. I wondered if you were aware of that and how you felt about it.
So the question was, as fans, this lady growing up, you had to be either a Schwarzenegger fan or a Stallone fan, and it was viewed as being disloyal if you watched one of the other person's films. Did you know about this, the rivalry?
Well, I want to just add, because this is not exactly everything that she said. She made very clear that the Schwarzenegger fans were very receptive to accepting the Stallone fans and filling up the theater.
I stand corrected.
And it was not the other way around. The Stallone fans did not accept the Schwarzenegger fans. And that's where the problem began. And I always was very inclusive, and so were my fans. And this is what is very important, but I mean, the bottom line was that I'm so glad that we straightened out our mess, because it wasn't pretty. We were attacking each other in the press relentlessly. We called each other names and called out our weak points, and it was just so competitive, it became so silly that all of a sudden it was a competition about who has the most muscular body. So I said, Sly, forget about that now. Because there's only one Mr. Olympia, 7-time Mr. Olympia, and that's me. But then, he had to use bigger weapons. So now it was a competition who has the biggest gun. And then it was the competition who uses the biggest knife. Do you remember the rainbow knife became so big it was like a sword? No one has a knife like that. But Stallone had one built, so I had to come in with a bigger one, right? And this is like how it went. And who has the most unique killings? Who kills more people on the screen? Who makes more money at the box office? Who has less body fat when he goes into production? All of this shit started happening. It was like, it didn't stop. It was like unbelievable. And then finally, after this war continued like for a decade, finally came this idea that to create Planet Hollywood. And then I was asked, as being the only celebrity, to be to have a contract with them and to be kind of the representative for Planet Hollywood. And then my lawyer, who also was the lawyer of Stallone and of Bruce Willis, then asked me, says, look, can we cut those guys in too? And I said to myself, here's a great opportunity to be gracious and to just kind of, say, they're all welcome. Because I knew that if they come in, we will have to fly around the world and promote Planet Hollywoods all over the world. And that eventually, since we would now have something in common, will create peace. That's exactly what happened. Stallone was very appreciative that I let him come in, and Bruce Willis came in, we flew around the world, we gave each other gifts, and we fell in love with each other, and the rest is history. So now we love each other, we respect each other, and we hang out together and all that stuff.
I heard a story that you leaked it to the press that you were interested in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, and Stallone heard about that, and that's why he ended up doing that movie. Is that true?
There's a story out there that allegedly the governor leaked to the press that he was interested in Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Stallone caught wind of this, and so Stallone stepped in.
True. It was the script. I read the script. It was so bad. And I have done also some movies that went right in the toilet, right? And that were bad. But this one was really bad. And so when I read it, I said to myself, this was during our war. I said to myself, what we're going to do, we're going to leak out that I have tremendous interest in this. And so I knew right away the way it works in Hollywood, I would then ask for a lot of money So then they say, you know, let's go give it to Sly. And maybe we can get it for cheaper. So they gave it to Sly, and they told Sly, says, Schwarzenegger's in this, here's the press clippings, you know, he talked about that. You know, if you want to grab that one away from him, that is available. And he went for it. he totally went for it. And actually, a week later, I heard about it. I said, Sly is signing now to do this movie. And I said, yes. So this is how big the war was.
Goldsmith, right there.
You talked about the physical challenges of Predator. I'm curious, in your career, what's a scene or a moment that was a great intellectual challenge as an actor?
You talked about the physical challenges in Predator. In your career, what were the acting challenges that you had?
Well, I think that, you know, when you do action movies, they don't spend that much time on really doing great. As a matter of fact, Predator is somewhat of an exception here, because there were some really great scenes. And I think that John McTiernan is one of those guys that isn't just a great action director, but he just loves also great dialogue and great scenes. I mean, he moved in, and the way he worked with us when we did our scenes together, it was fantastic. But that's a rarity in an action movie. I tell you, you set up for 24 hours a big scene, you know, swinging from this side of the building over there, then crashing in there, then the horse is riding through here, let's coordinate that, and blah, blah, and you rehearse, and you spend hours on this stuff. And then they go off to the side, they say, let's not do quickly the dialogue scene, and they give you a half an hour. So this is why you never really have a chance to develop a character really well, or to really get into it with a challenging scene. So there was in challenging scenes, like for instance on Predator, I remember on Conan there was some moments because we had Max von Sydow and we had James Earl Jones as the actors in there. So I mean it was like in Will Smith. So we had some really unbelievable actors in there, and therefore, because of Milius, also requested some very challenging scenes. But then later on, when we started doing True Lies with Jim Cameron, and when we started, you know, Terminator 2, there were some unbelievable scenes that were really challenging. Not because there was so much dialogue or anything like that, but it was just what, you know, when you play a machine, for instance in Terminator, you play a machine, and so you play the whole machine all the time, machine-like. But then all of a sudden, the director comes to you and he says, I want to now ramp up a little bit that the human being is coming through. Because you're hanging out with this boy, and you start understanding a little bit more human beings, and you start becoming a little bit more human. And he gives you kind of like numbers. He says, you know, from 1 to 10, I want you to start with like a 1. And then with a 2. Then he takes you up to maybe a 5. But you can never act really human, but I mean, you have some hints of human behaviors when you talk and when you show sadness and stuff like that. And so those were really challenging moments because Cameron is a very demanding director. I mean, really demanding. I mean, if he doesn't get exactly the lighting he wants, or if he doesn't get exactly the performance he wants, or the action that he wants from the stunt guys, I mean, he would do it over and over and over again until he gets what he is envisioning in this scene. And so there were a lot of really extraordinary and very challenging scenes that way. And I remember in True Lies, especially when I was sitting there and had to watch the dance of Jamie Lee Curtis and not move. I mean, think about that for a second. That was a real challenge, let me tell you something.
Okay, we got 2 more questions.
I just want to hear that, if you don't mind, because Bill is an actor's actor. I mean, he's the real deal. And so I just want to hear from Bill, because I've never really asked him that question. What was for you one of the most challenging things from an acting point of view?
As you said, John McTiernan is a great director, and he cares about actors in the scenes. after my partner died in the film, the scene when I'm talking to the moon, and I promise him that I'm going to get revenge. I had to have the emotion of the moment, but also he didn't want me to be too soft or anything. So finding that balance was interesting. I really missed him, my partner, but at the same time it was the anger, I'm going to get you for killing him. So those two things together were interesting.
Very nice.
Gentleman there in the plaid shirt.
First, I just want to say you're not only the last action hero, but the only real action hero to me and probably so many people in this room.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of all the badasses you've portrayed, who is your favorite on-screen persona and why?
Who's your favorite on-screen persona and why?
You're talking about the movies that I played?
Yes.
Okay. I think that, that's very hard to say. It's almost kind of to ask me, what is your favorite muscle? How do you answer that, right? I know. It's like ask me what is the worst tweet of Donald Trump? Where do you start? Where do you start? I mean, this is like those kind of questions kind of like makes me kind of like I don't know where to start. So, but I mean, I think it's there was the character obviously in Predator that I played. I think that playing Terminator is really a fantastic role to play. I think the character that I played in True Lies was a really interesting double kind of a role where you balls it one day, but then you come home and all of a sudden everything is kind of like, you have to deal with this daily problems just like everyone else, and you have to be the family man, and you have the challenges with your daughter, and the challenges with your wife, and all it's just things that everyone goes through. And then again, the next day I was up there, killing 50 terrorists or something like that. So that was, I think, a really, really interesting character. And then I thought that the aftermath about the two airplanes crashing together that I just recently did, that was a very, very interesting character, because it's a Russian guy that I played who lost his family in an airplane crash, and he knows that it was their fault, and no one came to apologize because of insurance policies and all that. So no one wanted to admit that it was their fault and blah, blah, blah. And so this guy is going now, he's a really great guy, but I mean, he always is getting into this whole thing about, I got to go and find revenge for my family. And he's going after the air traffic controller. And what takes place, in this character, and how he then gets there and all this stuff. I just thought that was also a very interesting character to play. I love that. So, so this is why it's very hard to say there's this one. It's never the one. It's like many different kind of interesting characters that I play.
Okay, this is it, the last question. Who really wants it and who's got a great one? Who's it right here? Okay, Jen right there. Better be good.
Last question of the night. Arnold, who is your daddy and what does he do?
Answer it now. Well, if you want to have a real answer, my dad was a police officer, and he gave me the discipline that I had throughout my whole life. And he gave me that through sports. And I just think that sports is really one of the greatest vehicles to learn about some of the most important lessons in life. And this is why I recommend highly for every parent to make sure that their kids participate in sports. Because there you don't have to sit down and preach all the time and say, you got to have discipline, and you got to stick to it with it and all this stuff. it automatically comes with it. If you want to be a good soccer player, you got to go and play soccer every day, hours and hours and hours. If you want to be a great piano player, I remember I walked up to this girl that was 7 years old, and she played the piano on the stage in a huge performance, and they said, wow, you're 7 years old, how much do you practice? And she said, 5 hours a day. I mean, this is what it takes. The same as in bodybuilding. I mean, there is no shortcut. 5 hours a day, you have to practice the posing, you have to eat right, and you have to be disciplined, you have to do it every day, and you know, there's no way around it. And so you learn about hard work, you learn about discipline, you learn about camaraderie, you learn that you're a product of a lot of help, and you learn that not to listen to the naysayers, and all of those kind of things. All this stuff you learn from sports. So I was happy that I had a father that was very much into creating discipline at home with us kids, and that got me into sports, and that also really always said to me, remember one thing, Arnold, be useful. Be useful. And I always remember that is always sticking in my mind, to be useful.